You are going to want to quit. That's a fact. There will come a moment, likely many moments, when you're face down in the chaos, drowning in responsibility, overwhelmed by complexity, and you'll hear that whisper, why not just stop? Why not give up? But you must not. Because here's something you need to understand. Life is suffering. That's not a cynical statement. It's an observation as old as humanity itself. And yet, despite that suffering, despite tragedy, betrayal, illness, and grief, we are creatures who move forward. We build in the face of entropy, we speak in the face of silence, we act in the face of despair. So when the burden feels unbearable, remember, meaning does not emerge from comfort, meaning emerges from the willingness to voluntarily shoulder responsibility, from choosing to get up, to face the dragons at the edge of your consciousness, and to make something better. Quitting might give you temporary relief, but it will come at the cost of your soul, because deep down, you know exactly when you've betrayed yourself. When you've walked away from what needed to be done, and the guilt, it doesn't just haunt you, it reshapes you, it makes you smaller, more bitter, more resentful, and then the world becomes darker, not because it is, but because you are. So what's the alternative? You stand up straight. Literally, you tell the truth. You put your house in order. You aim at something worth the effort, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You set your eyes on the highest possible good you can conceptualize, and you walk toward it. Clumsily, slowly, but deliberately, you don't quit, and when, not if you fall, you get back up, you repeat the pattern over and over, because that's what fortifies your character, that's what transforms suffering into sacrifice, chaos into order, and despair into purpose. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're too broken, or too late, or too weak. You're not. You're exactly the kind of person who can bear the unbearable, precisely because that's what life demands. It demands everything from you. And oddly enough, it's when you give everything that you begin to feel like someone real. So no, don't quit. Pick up your cross, face the unknown, and walk forward, because everything depends on it. Life is suffering. This isn't a pessimistic proclamation. It's a recognition of reality. It's the starting point, the base of the pyramid. You come into the world vulnerable, fragile, and destined to encounter pain, betrayal, illness, and loss. These aren't rare occurrences. They're baked into the structure of existence itself, and pretending otherwise only makes you weaker, more resentful, and less equipped to deal with the inevitable trials that come your way. But there's something remarkable hidden in this bleak recognition. It's precisely the confrontation with suffering that makes life meaningful. If everything were perfect, if there was no struggle, no challenge, no pain, then nothing would matter. Without darkness, there's no light. Without the possibility of catastrophe, there's no need for courage, and without suffering, there's no capacity for meaning. So, the question isn't how do I avoid suffering? That's a naive, childish question. The real question is how do I face it properly? How do I bear it, carry it, and even transform it into something noble? That's where responsibility comes in. That's where meaning begins to emerge. When you voluntarily confront the suffering in your life, when you stop blaming others, stop avoiding your duties, and instead say, I will carry this burden, and I will carry it well, you begin to transform. You cease being a victim and start becoming a participant in your own redemption. And that's not some abstract, philosophical ideal. That's something real. You can see it. In people who stand up under pressure, who don't crumble when life hits them, who use their suffering as fuel for growth, you can see the emergence of something heroic, and you can become that person too. But only if you stop running, only if you stop treating life as something unfair and start treating it as a challenge, an invitation to grow, to become more than you are. That's the paradox. Meaning is found in the very things we want most to avoid. In responsibility, in difficulty, in suffering. So, when life hurts, and it will, don't turn away, don't become bitter, look it in the eye, because on the other side of that confrontation is something extraordinary, not just survival, but transformation. Not just endurance, but meaning, and that's what makes all of it worthwhile. Responsibility, that's the cornerstone of a meaningful life, and it's not something imposed on you by the world. It's something you choose. Something you embrace. You pick it up because you understand, consciously or not, that life without responsibility is shallow, chaotic, and hollow. You can distract yourself with pleasure for a while, comfort, entertainment, indulgence, but sooner or later, that emptiness comes creeping back. Because deep down, you know that meaning doesn't come from ease. It comes from effort, from commitment, from willingly bearing the weight of existence. The modern world is obsessed with rights, with freedom, with autonomy. And sure, those are important, but freedom without responsibility is aimlessness. It's nihilism in disguise. When you have nothing you must do, you have no reason to be. That's why people collapse when life gets hard. They haven't trained themselves to carry weight. They haven't voluntarily accepted the burdens that give life structure and direction. Start small if you must. Clean your room. Organize your life. Tell the truth. Show up on time. These aren't arbitrary suggestions. They're disciplines that build a foundation. They orient you toward order rather than chaos, and from there you scale upward. You start to take on more: family, work, community, your own broken past. It's a lot. It's more than you think you can handle. But that's the point. You don't know how strong you are until you lift something heavy, and the heavier the load, the more strength you discover. Taking responsibility isn't about martyrdom. It's not about self-punishment. It's about purpose. It's about standing in the storm with your shoulders square and saying, "This is my task. This is mine to bear." That's when life starts to feel significant. That's when you wake up in the morning and know why you're alive. It's not easy. It never will be. But easy is a lie. Easy rots the soul. What elevates you, what transforms you, is choosing the hard path, the path of responsibility, and in doing so, you become someone worth respecting. Someone others can rely on, and perhaps most importantly, someone you can respect yourself. Responsibility isn't the burden people think it is. It's the ladder out of hell. Pick it up, carry it. That's where meaning lives. When you quit, you don't just stop doing something hard. You fracture something inside yourself. You betray the part of you that knows what's right, what's necessary, and that betrayal doesn't just vanish. It sits in the shadows of your psyche, whispering that you weren't strong enough, disciplined enough, or honest enough to endure. And that whisper grows louder with time, not quieter. People often think quitting will bring relief, and maybe, for a moment, it does. But that relief is deceptive. It's the comfort of numbness, not peace. Because there's a part of you that knows you turned away from the dragon you were meant to confront. And every time you do that, you become a little smaller. A little more afraid, a little more uncertain of your own worth. Not because the world tells you that you failed, but because you know it. That's how guilt works. It's not just moral, it's existential. It's the deep sense that you've abandoned your post, that you had a responsibility, a purpose, a path, and you walked away from it. That's a heavy thing to carry, and it accumulates. One compromise becomes a habit. One rationalization becomes a world view. Before long, you're not just someone who quit once. You've become a quitter. You've built an identity around avoidance and resentment. And then, when you look at people who didn't give up, who kept going despite pain, fatigue, and fear, you'll feel something dangerous. Envy, because they did what you didn't, and that envy can curdle into bitterness. It's not long before you start resenting them for their courage, instead of confronting your own cowardice. That's when your soul is in real trouble, but there's a way out. It's not easy, but it's simple. Don't quit. Even if it's painful, even if it's humiliating, even if you're crawling, you keep moving forward. You stay in the fight, because staying means something. It tells you, and the world, that you are not a slave to your weakness. That you are not defined by fear or failure. Quitting seems like an escape, but it's not. It's a trap. It's the slow erosion of who you could have been. So when that voice says, just give up, answer with action. Stand up, tighten your grip, and take the next step, because your soul is worth that effort. Stand up straight, literally, not just as a posture, but as a declaration to the world and to yourself. I am here, and I am not retreating. That simple act of squaring your shoulders and facing forward is not trivial. It's the beginning of reclaiming your agency in a world that is full of unpredictability, danger, and chaos. Chaos isn't just what's outside of you, it's inside too. It's the voice of doubt, the fear of inadequacy, the part of your soul that whispers, "You're not enough." And if you don't face that chaos voluntarily, it grows. It infects your relationships, your work, your health, your mind. Avoidance doesn't make it go away, it strengthens it. But when you face it, when you confront the unknown, you begin to integrate it. You begin to build order from the disarray. You tell the truth even if your voice shakes. You take responsibility even when it's heavy. You look into the abyss and, rather than running from it, you learn how to build a bridge over it. That's how courage is cultivated, not in the absence of fear, but in the presence of it. You have to clean your room. That's not just a metaphor. It's an act of resistance against the chaos that threatens to swallow you. It's a declaration that you can restore order, no matter how small the starting point. And once you start creating order in your immediate surroundings, you're better prepared to confront the larger, more terrifying realities in the world beyond your door. Facing chaos doesn't mean you eliminate it. It's always there. But it means you don't let it control you. You choose to engage with it. You take on challenges that are meaningful. You seek truth instead of comfort. And slowly, painfully, you carve a path forward. One grounded in competence, character, and clarity. The world is a brutal place if you approach it with your eyes closed. But if you dare to look, if you open your eyes wide and refuse to turn away, you become something formidable. Not arrogant, not aggressive, but solid, reliable, capable. So stand up, speak honestly, organize your surroundings, take on the dragon voluntarily, because the longer you hide, the stronger it becomes. And the sooner you face it, the sooner you discover who you really are, and what you might yet become. You have to aim at something, not just anything, something high, something noble, something difficult enough to demand your full attention, your full capacity. Because without that aim, you're lost, utterly adrift. If you're not moving toward a goal that justifies the struggle of life, then suffering becomes unbearable. That's when despair creeps in. That's when nihilism tightens its grip. You have to decide, consciously and deliberately, what it is you're striving toward, and it must be something worth the cost of who you are now. But here's the catch. You won't hit it perfectly, not at first. You'll stumble, you'll miss the mark, you'll be wrong, often, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you aim and you move forward, because direction is more important than speed. Precision can be improved, aimlessness cannot. Even a flawed goal, if pursued with honesty and humility, will refine itself as you move toward it. The act of aiming itself transforms you, and the movements, low, clumsy, awkward, is essential. You can't think your way to mastery. You can't wait until you feel ready. Readiness is a myth. What matters is action. The smallest step forward, in alignment with a worthy aim, is more powerful than all the abstract potential you could ever imagine. Because action is what reshapes chaos into order. It's what turns intentions into competence, and you will encounter resistance from others, from the world, from within. That resistance isn't a sign you've chosen the wrong path. Often, it's confirmation that you're doing something meaningful. If it were easy, everyone would do it. But difficult is necessary. It tempers you. It disciplines you. It teaches you what you're made of. Don't confuse that with perfectionism. You'll never have a perfect plan. You'll never be perfectly prepared. But if your goal is valuable enough, you'll tolerate the friction. You'll make sacrifices. You'll adjust, you'll grow, and one day, you'll look back and realize that the goal wasn't even the most important part. It was what the pursuit made of you. So stop drifting, pick a target, aim high. Move deliberately, and when you fall, and you will, get up and realign again and again, because the process of striving is what brings meaning, and meaning is what makes life not only bearable but worthwhile. You're going to fall, that's guaranteed. You're going to make mistakes, some of them devastating. You'll say the wrong thing, act out of fear or pride, betray your own standards, and then you'll be tempted to stay down, to conclude that the fall defines you. But it doesn't. What defines you is whether you get back up, how you respond when everything feels broken. That's where resilience is born, not in success, not in comfort, but in the wreckage, in the willingness to crawl through failure with your eyes open and your spine straight. Every time you rise after falling, you build something inside yourself. Call it character, call it soul, call it competence. It's the part of you that can endure suffering without becoming bitter. that can carry pain without passing it on. Most people want to grow, but without cost. They want strength without resistance, wisdom without experience, courage without fear. But that's not how this works. If you're never tested, you never know who you are. Resilience requires failure. It requires pressure, opposition, defeat. It's the ability to move forward in spite of it all, to say, this didn't break me, it shaped me, and this isn't just about surviving. It's about transforming. Resilience turns suffering into discipline. It turns chaos into order and pain into progress. That doesn't mean you become cold or indifferent. Quite the opposite. You become grounded, compassionate, strong enough to help others because you've first learned to carry your own burden. Think of it like this. Every fall is a chance to build a deeper foundation. Every time you're knocked off course, you can return with better aim, with greater clarity. That's how people become wise, not by avoiding hardship, but by enduring it honestly and learning from it. So don't expect an easy path. Don't wish for less struggle. Wish to become the kind of person who can contend with struggle, who can stare into the darkness without flinching. Because when you become that person, you don't just make your own life better. You become a stabilizing force in the lives of others, a light in the chaos. Fall, rise, repeat. That's how you build resilience. And that's how you become someone truly worth becoming.